record. I got another serious one for you guys today. This is an interesting, well, I mean, that's to put it so lightly to call it interesting, but it's interesting because there are actually a few different like layers to this story. But I think the main, very obvious, bright light takeaway is that it involves hardcore domestic abuse. Our guest, Kayla, was almost, I mean, truly almost like, well, murdered by her boyfriend. Brink of death stuff. And so obviously it's a very serious story. It's very important that Kayla tells this story, and I don't want to put words in her mouth or even say the things that happened because it's her story, and it's important to let her tell it. But it also the sort of coincidence, the coincidences that had to happen for her to survive this ordeal are crazy. The fact that she's here, so many different things had to have lined up for her to still be alive right now. And they did. And she's here, and she wanted to tell the story to me, and I feel very lucky for that. But yeah, I guess you've been warned. This is seriously an intense, fucked up story. Thank you, Kayla, for coming on the show to tell me and wanting to share it with the world. Like I said, it is an important story. If you want to be a guest on the show, go to theprivaterecord.com and submit yourself as a potential guest. Follow us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, at The Private Record. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, at The Private Record. Like, comment, do all that stuff. It helps the show. It helps me. It helps all of us over here. We appreciate it, but we appreciate you just watching. It means a lot to us. Thank you so much. I'll see you again soon.
I'm Kayla, and my submission, I forget what I really wrote, but I survived like a 5-hour brutal attack at the hands of an ex, kidnapped and tortured, and I'm here to tell the story about it.
Well, that sounds harrowing and crazy. Thank you for being on the show and telling your story. Let's get right into it.
Yeah. So I met this man in treatment center, so probably not the best idea. But brought him home. We were together for about 6 months. Knew that he had red flags, like multiple red flags. But I thought I was going to be like different and fix him. And that's the problem with me. So he had gotten violent with me like 2 weeks prior to that. I think it was just because I was pulling back and kind of seeing the error in my ways of like bringing somebody home. I had left the father of my children, left the home that we shared together, just really sick, you know what I mean? Sick thinking. And I just wasn't well at that time, and just trying to fill voids with anything possible, which I think a lot of people that struggle with addiction do.
Totally.
And so I was doing that and just looking for validation from people other than myself, which I should be giving myself all the validation. But at that point, I just wasn't strong enough or smart enough. I didn't know myself well enough to be doing that. So I started pulling away. He blacked both my eyes right before I was about to go to work. And I remember that night I was going to just go home to the house that, you know, with the father of my children and my children, and go back. I remember calling him and everything. And then I just hung up, and I ended up going back to this other man and sticking it out. And then about 2 weeks later, it was the day of my daughter's birthday. I was getting ready to go because my kids had never met him. I was smart enough to not introduce them to him. So getting ready to go to her birthday party, he went to the store and he came back, and I don't know what happened between the walk to the store, and it was just around the corner. It was like the corner store. And when he got back, but he came home and just started like brutalizing me. He grabbed a knife, held it to his throat, said he was going to, kill himself. And then he threw it on the ground. And so I knew the whole time, like if he grabs a hold of that knife, it's done. It's over with for me. So I just tried to keep him calm. I I didn't fight back at all. I don't know why or how.
Yeah.
But for like 5 hours, he took my phone, smashed my phone. I tried to get away several times, but there was just no really getting away. At one point, he was like, we need to pack, we need to leave. And I was going to leave and like go to a hotel and like bunker down with him and try to hide. But then I ran into the bathroom and got away from him, and I saw my face. And I can't tell you how bad it was. Like my head was like 5 times the size.
Oh my
Both my
God.
eyes were black. I mean, if you see the pictures of what he did to me, honestly, it's unbelievable. So I was just looking at him like, we can't go anywhere. There's no way for us to get out of this. Like, we like, look at me, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
Like, this is bad. And so
you can't go anywhere if you look
really
like that, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's when he just snapped, and he got me on he called his sister at this point. And I found that out a little bit later from my victim's advocate, because when I get to the end of the story, you'll be like, how did this all play out? So he gets his phone, calls his sister and says, you probably won't see or hear from me for a while because I'm going to effing kill this beep.
Whoa.
Yeah, he got me on the ground and he got me in a chokehold and he started to try to kill me. And so I was on the ground, I pulled all my fake nails, all my real nails off of my hands, trying to release his grasp. And the whole time I was saying, like, I love you. I don't know why you're doing this.
Yeah.
Like, please stop. And I will never forget. I mean, I still have nightmares to this day of the face of just sheer determination to just exterminate me. It was the most terrifying thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And he was not giving up. And I guess his sister had the wherewithal to go online and, I don't know, search my last name. My parents own a realty company. So that's the first thing that popped up. She found my father's number. He didn't answer. She found my sister's number. She answered. My sister then called 911, called my mother, who was right around the corner getting like lunch. And she was involved in a hit and run. So she was like magically with the police.
Oh,
they
my
were right
God.
around the corner, just like 15 seconds away from my house. So they rush over. He heard the beep, 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 like, the lock of a door pad.
Yeah,
heard that, and then let go. And it was like divine intervention. I don't know if people are like, I'm super spiritual now because of this.
Right.
Because I just was there thinking, this is it. This is how I'm going to die, because he had me for a while, like down there. And I was thinking saying my prayers, like, I didn't even know what to think, all the things running through my head. And then he got up and he walked out with his hands up, just covered in my blood, and said, I did it. And then they took him, handcuffed him, took him away, and they got me right into the ambulance. And I was transferred to the hospital where I severe damage, like both of them, the whites of my eyes were just completely red because I was strangled, and they were like that for months, like just super scary stuff. But like from the pictures that my mom took the day, like she snapped pictures right away because she knew we were going to have to go to trial and all this stuff. And looking back at that picture to like who I am today, like I don't know. And it doesn't make sense how I'm not more like messed up or have brain damage or like any of the things that typically go along with brutal attacks like that. But I don't know, it was some sort of divine intervention. And I don't know, it was scary and terrifying, and as horrible as it was, it completely changed my life because I was living in a really not well way. And as soon as I woke up in that hospital bed, I don't know who woke up. It was like a different woman woke up. So
interesting.
It kind of became a touchstone for me to like grow and become better.
I mean, wow. Okay. I mean, that is really, so he is literally in the act of killing you when he's interrupted. So if that doesn't happen right then, it's very possible, if not likely, that you are gone.
Yeah. Yep. And just all the things that like if he wouldn't have called his sister,
Right,
if
of course,
his sister didn't have the fortitude to like call my parents, if if my sister didn't pick up, if any little thing would have went differently, I don't think I'd be sitting here.
Right. So the sister thing is super interesting to me. I want to get into the whole meat of the experience, but do you know, like, did she know her brother had a history or a propensity to such violence or destruction? Is this why because that's very, I think, a unique thing to do of her in that situation, to say, oh, this is really bad. My own brother, it's like, we care about our siblings, we love our family, but if she really thought her brother was going to do something terrible, that's the only reason she would possibly track down your parents, your sister, try to find these people. So do you have any idea, or have you ever connected with her to, like, why she just knew something so terrible was going to happen?
So he did have a like big propensity. He's a third-time violent offender.
Okay. Yeah.
So she knew who she was dealing with.
Right.
And I'm just super glad. Like, I don't even know why he reached out to his sister like that. I don't, you know what I mean? I have no idea.
I mean, there's so many different ways to think about it, to psychologize that situation where he must have been. Maybe he knew, maybe he, in some weird way, wanted intervention to happen somehow. Like, who knows, But, obviously he's not thinking straight. So I bet he doesn't even know, even if he were to be asked, if he was here right now, why did you call your sister? It's very likely his answer would not be accurate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So back to the very beginning of this story. You said at the very beginning, you took him home at the beginning of your relationship. What do you, what do you mean? Like,
so we met in treatment,
right?
Like, just craziness,
And
like,
and he had nowhere to go.
Like, he could have went home, but it was like, we made this plan that we were going to like start a life together.
Okay.
And it's like, so anyone out there, do not get into rehab relationships. Like, it's a terrible thing. It's like, don't do that.
That seems like a sound advice right there.
Oh, you might die.
Yeah, clearly.
Not to laugh about it, but like, I can laugh today because like I got through it, and
yeah, totally. I mean, sometimes if we don't laugh about something, we just cry about it, and so it makes sense to laugh at the truly horrible things that have happened to us, because it's a very human thing to do, and I can totally understand. But so at the beginning, despite, obviously, in retrospect, hindsight is 2020. Now that was a bad idea, but I would imagine the beginning of your relationship was good in some way, or most ways, right?
He was my best friend for a really long time. That's why it's hard to even talk about it. Like, I felt like I had finally found somebody who understood me, who really loved me, who cared for me. Like, he was showing me all this like love and affect. But now I look back and I'm like, was that like a really big red flag? You know what I mean? Just how obsessive and like loving and doting. I think back then it was like, I was super sick and I needed that. I needed somebody to like, almost like put me on this pedestal and like do everything for, like, always be texting and getting very jealous, and the things I look now at and I'm like, whoa, he didn't need any of that. And he showed his colors many times. And I think for a lot of people, we're just blind to that. And then when he blacked my eyes that time, I should have left. But I know for a lot of people that are in abusive relationships will understand that it's like, until you're in that situation, it's really hard to like say, well, if I would have done X, Y, Z.
Totally.
And just like how they get in your head and like really isolate you from people. And you don't really see it until, like, hindsight's 2020. You don't really see it until you step back and you're like, wow, what was I doing? Because I came to work and I had 2 black eyes and no one really said anything except this one guy that I worked with. And he came up to me, and because, that he came into my work one time and didn't really like this man. Just jealous of everybody. Anybody that showed me any kind of like attention, did not like them. And I remember he came up to me after I worked that night, and he said, I already know the answers to these questions, but I'm going to ask them anyway. why are your eyes black and who did
Wow.
it?
Wow.
And I was like, just looked at him like, Ryan, come on. And
Yeah.
he was like, I can't, if you don't get out of there, like, I got your back at work, but other than that, like, I
Right.
can't
Yeah.
be around because I cannot, I can't let you do this because I
Yeah.
know the woman you are. I know how great you are. And if you're going to do that to yourself, like, I can't be around for that. And I can't support that. I can't
Yeah.
support you in that. And after it all happened, like, I did thank him for all that and for being the only one to, because people get so nervous. I think they don't know what to say. I know everybody
Yeah.
could see them. They were very, very, it was raining that day. And I came in and I walked because my job was right around the corner from my house. And so I'm wet and my makeup's running and like they were, both of them.
So
So
that's
you could tell.
interesting that people don't, because I think when people think about it, they think, well, if someone I knew, someone I work with came to work and they had two black eyes, I would, because I care about them, I would say something. I'd inquire about whether or not they're okay. But clearly that's not the case for everyone. And
Yeah, I think a lot of people. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that's interesting because I think people like to think of themselves as people who would want to intervene to help someone they care about, but it's clearly more complicated to them. And yet
Yeah.
you had this one guy who was like, he even went past what he knew your denials would be and said, look, I know what all of this is. I mean, that's what's interesting though, too, is that the result of him acknowledging it, saying something, wanting to help you, and those people sort of turning a blind eye to it, results were the same. I mean, you went back anyway. You know what I mean? And so it's maybe people are thinking, well, it's not my place. I mean, it's so easy for people to say, oh, well, I don't want to get into someone else's business, even when they know they should very much get into their business.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fucked up that no one said anything, you know?
Yeah. And I think that's a lot of it. What it is like people just either nervous to get involved, scared to get involved, have their own things going on in life. I've sat for like the 3 years trying to like understand the psychology of people and like because I mean it affected my life huge. Like after that happened, I didn't want to leave my house. I didn't want to go out and I didn't trust anybody. Or like just relationships with anyone were just a mess, you know. Even with myself, it was very hard to just get back up and get moving with life. And I was just hiding from everybody. I would walk around in hats and I just didn't want to be seen. Like even doing this is like super scary for me, but
well, I get that.
I know I have to like get back out there, and I also want to like be a voice to people that like you can go through super difficult things and like survive and thrive, not just survive, but thrive and live full lives. And I hope that it helps somebody that maybe if they're going through an abusive relationship, they know to like get out, which is it's not that easy.
No.
I know it's not that easy, but I know that you have to at least have somebody in your life that you trust and to go and talk to them and get a plan, because that was what was difficult was after he blacked my eyes, I was thinking like, how am I going to get the hell out of here? Because I brought him here with me. You know what I mean? He's away from where he lived. It was I almost felt stuck. And I know a lot of people feel that way. And when somebody is so encompassed and enmeshed in your life and they're following you or they're tracking they're on your phone, it's really difficult to get away from that, or just to even take yourself out of. It's like you can't see the forest from the trees. That's typically what it is. It's like you're so in the middle of it that you can't separate yourself and step back and say, wait a minute, this is not me, and this is not the life I want to be living at all,
Yeah, I think that is particularly relatable. I mean, so many situations, again, we think we would act a certain way if we were in so-and-so situation when we're not in that situation. But then when we're in that situation, we don't act that way at all, because being in the situation, there's so many other elements, factors going on, and we don't always see so clearly in the present moment exactly what's going on. And I'm curious as to what I'm assuming he wasn't abusive from the jump. Was when he gave you two black eyes, was that the first time he got physical toward you like that? Or was it? Oh, it was.
Mm-hmm.
So that were there signs? If you had to, like, what do you think if someone came to you, right, and said, I'm in a scenario where I think my partner could do something like that to me. I see signs that seem like they might be signs, but I don't know because I've never been here before and I don't know, but I'm scared. Like what would you say the signs were for you as it was sort of leading up to that, you know?
Yeah, he would joke around about like really like if you were to leave in the middle of the night, because I used to tell him stories about like crazy shit I would do when I was like under the influence. Like I would just leave in the middle of the night to like go and do my thing. And he goes, you ever do that, you come home and I'll be waiting behind the door and I'm gonna fuck you up. You know what I mean? And I'd be like, ha 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 ha. And he's like, yeah, it's not funny. Like I'm being serious. And like he meant that full well.
Yeah,
like and I should have expected that from and just little thing, just the jealousy towards men. But there was no like just different things that he would say to me. With it, there was always like a hint of aggression with it. So that's the signs that I would look out for. And just somebody who is super obsessive and almost and super jealous. And I think it's a big insecurity within themselves that they have to feel the need to want. Because I didn't fight back one time. I didn't say a mean thing to him. I mean, he jumped up and down on my body. He kicked me while I was down. Like, and the things that he said to me were, and the whole time I was just not fighting back and saying, I don't know why you're doing this. I love you. I was trying to keep him calm. It was just spawning, you know what I mean? It was almost like freezing and just trying to, make it go away.
So he clearly snapped in some way at some point. What between the moment you described about going to work when he first got physical with you, when he first abused you, and then up to the moment when he almost killed you, how long of a period was that between those 2 weeks? 2 weeks. So what were those 2 weeks like? Like, was he escalating the physical aggression towards you, or was that just the two incidents when he got violent?
No, it was just those two incidents, and like that was it. But I was changing. You know what I mean? Like he could tell. Like he would come up or he would startle me, and I'd like flinch. And he could tell that like he messed up, and like he even said that like I fucked up. You know what I mean? And like you're afraid of me now. And I don't know if he was saying that almost to see like if I was afraid or like to gauge how I was feeling or like that he could control me then with that or what. But like when I came home that night, all he did was cry and I'm so sorry and that I'm never going to do that again and yada, yada. And then I was getting distant because I was petrified of him.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was wanting to spend more time together and I'm picking up more shifts at work. And that's why he even got into that huge fight was he thought I was like taking somebody else's slip from work who had like the same initials as me. And I was like paying her for them and not going. Like he would just create these crazy scenarios in his head that like made sense to him. That he thought that I'm like cheating on him, and he would come to find out he had gone through my phone. He had made different accounts on like Facebook and was trying to get me to like trying to bait me almost to like, and I was so in love with this, almost like, I would never even think about doing that to him, but he was trying to play that out because he thought in his head that's what was going on.
I
found that out all after like all that happened. I got on my computer and I was like, what is all this? Like, what are these fake accounts? It was just so weird. That's why I like got off of most of social media. I was like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's almost like the paranoia and, as you said, the insecurity. It's almost like at some point, the inverse of that weakness is going to, that pendulum is going to swing back around, almost as extreme as the insecurity is, and as sort of like almost aggressive as the insecurity is. It's going to swing back around and turn into strength, and it's so scary, I mean, I know to various degrees, I know men who are insecure about one thing or another. I mean, most of the men that I know, as they got older, they kind of shed their insecurities because they grew up and they got mature, and that sort of kind of fell by the wayside. But there are some men, and this is just true. There are some men, they're a minority of men, but they're the majority of offenders across the board. Violence towards women, all kinds of criminal behavior. And it sounds obviously like he was one of those people.
Yep.
And
they said it's like,
go ahead.
They said there's like a crazy statistic that like 10% are always like repeat reoffending or something like, and they keep in the system. Because I've studied this after I was like trying to figure out the why. Like, why did you do that to me? I don't, but I'm never going to figure it out. And obviously he has a pattern, like he's done it 2 other times. But that's the only reason he got the sentence that he did with me, which is also frightening as shit. You know what I mean? That the legal system and like just the whole system of incarceration, and it was going through that was certainly eye-opening and really scary. It is true that when you look at just general statistics of violence, it's obviously, I think everyone knows this, it's mostly men. But when you look closer at the statistics, it's the same men, a smaller, much, much smaller group of men that are doing awful shit over and over and over and over again. And it's a real issue. How do you deal with these people? Obviously, you want to keep society safe. What happened to this guy after all of this? Like, I'm hoping he's not just out there doing it to someone else. What happened? Yeah. So he got a sentence of 30 years. Had to fight tooth and nail for him to even get that. I mean, the charges that they gave him after what he did to me are, I think he got like destruction of property. Like there was no premeditated murder. I think he got like an assault charge, maybe. But when they came to the hospital to talk to me, they deemed me unfit to interview because I was so wrecked. It was. The pictures are just like, I look at them sometimes just to remind myself, like, hey, you came a long way. Like, we're doing good,
Good. That's good, So he went through a trial and everything. You were a witness, I'm assuming? Like, what was your experience? Like, even after that, it's interesting. The court system is obviously built to make sure people like that go away for a long time, but you're sort of subjected to having to relive it in a number of different ways. Many times for a long period of time. So what was that experience for you after the event?
So like I said, he was already a violent offender. He had been convicted twice.
Okay.
And so he had a bond that was holding him in place from another state. Now, around Christmas time, I kept getting these calls from Vine, and I was like, I don't know what it is. And I just kept boring and not paying attention. And then one night in the middle of the night, I love podcasts. I'm always listening to podcasts. I was just listening to a crime junkie podcast, and they just randomly brought up Vine, the victim information notification enrollment. And I was like, oh my God, that's who's calling me. And so I listened to the message finally. It was before they had the like where you can read it. So I had to like hit the thing, listen. And it said that he had a bond. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Wow.
And so come to find out. So it's 2:00 in the morning. So I'm like waiting till like 5. So I can call my victim's advocate. And I'm like, hi, Merry Christmas. Hope you had a great holiday. Blake is showing that he has a bond, and his bond was only like $1,000. And I was like, what? How is that possible?
Yeah.
And she goes, no, maybe just like something his paperwork from the other state isn't in. Maybe that's what it is. I'll call you right back. It was like 30 seconds later, she called back and she's like, no, that's true. He has a bond. And so we had to have an emergency hearing to like even get him held with a higher bond amount.
Wow.
And that was even a process. I had to go, me and my parents had to go to the district state attorney office and sit in there because it was like so hard to just get a hold
Oh
of
my
my attorney
God.
and talk to her. Like the hell that we went through with this case was just unbelievable. But when we finally did get a hold of her, she was amazing. And my victim advocate and her, they worked so hard. And especially my victims advocate, she always had my back. Like she even moved jobs like midway through all this going on. And she was still there at my trial. She's always had my back. Like
Wow.
I saw her on Halloween, and it was just really nice to see her. She's just super supportive, always checking on me. So it was nice to have them. And my attorney was just a bulldog. Like she was not playing. But we had the emergency hearing and my sister testified. I didn't have to. And my mother testified. And then they showed the judge my picture. And that was what did it. He came back. And even with the charges that he had, which you're supposed to have like a capital charge to be held no bond. But he was like, we're holding him no bond. So we got the no bond. We had to wait. We went back a couple months later to the actual trial.
Right.
I still didn't have to testify. They just took my mom and my sister. And after that, they sentenced him to 30 years. They said no less than that. Like he has to serve that because he's a third-time offender.
30 years. I mean, that is. I think we can actually say like someone got what they deserve. Like that is a heavy sentence.
Yeah.
30 years is, I mean, fucking 30 years.
Yeah.
That's amazing though. I mean, a lot of people, I don't know about, third-time offenders, probably a lot more likely for people in that situation to really get severe punishments. But I also know that when it comes to domestic abuse, a lot of people get either away with it entirely or get like shitty little 2-year probation sentences.
Slap on the
Yeah. I mean, that's, I hesitate to say congratulations because it's such an awful situation and so fucking terrible, but it warrants that. I mean, that is a huge deal. I mean, he's never going to be able to do that to anybody else. And that is the whole point,
Yeah, we didn't expect it at all. Like we were all shocked. Like the fact that we got that sentence, the fact that everything, because even they warn you like going into it, like this is what it is. We might get it, we might not. Like,
what do they say? How do they, that's interesting. Because the system is so fucked up, I guess they have to prepare you for a fucked up result. So what do they say? How do they do that?
Just kind of like, we worked as hard as we could, this is what we're fighting to get. But don't be surprised if we don't get this. Like even with the bond, like they always were preparing me for the worst, that it might be not that at all. He might give him the minimum.
Yeah.
We just don't know. It really depends on the judge and how they're feeling and the facts of the case. And if he's listening and if he, however it's really at their hands.
That's a scary thought. What was the minimum punishment that was on the table for him?
I think 15.
Okay.
Or 12 or something like that. But the fact that we got 30, it was just like, I could breathe because.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Tell me if you don't mind, you don't have to, but I'm curious as to like, it's such a traumatic experience. What is it even like getting back into what one might call the swing of things? Like what, after something that fucked up and hectic, like what is the next week like, for instance? Do you know what I mean? And then the next month, like what is it like getting back into life?
I just woke up in that hospital bed and I really questioned like everything, like who am I? What am I? It was, and like I was surrounded by everyone I loved, people who really cared about me, but it was like I had to question everything I'd ever thought, and I didn't know what to do or who I was really. I just was, it shattered my world. And it was really sad at the time, but I'm kind of grateful for it today because
Mhm.
it made me really take a step back and start questioning, like, who am I? You know what I mean? Well, who is this person?
Sure.
And do I believe all the things that have been told to me? And a lot of it had been put on me by like people I knew I've known, or my parents, or all these thoughts and beliefs that I had.
Yeah.
And I really started doing like intensive work on myself, and that has been like the best thing for me.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, but the first couple weeks, like I couldn't go out the house. I had to
Yeah.
get medicated. I had to, uh, because I just didn't trust anyone. It's like you
Right.
feeling like you always have to look over your shoulder because, of course, yeah, he's in jail, but
Right.
you
Yeah.
don't think he has people out there.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just this constant, and I still deal with that today.
Yeah.
I can still get paranoid. I can still get nervous and fearful, and I still have to deal with the night terrors and uh, just hard shit. You're
Yeah.
traumatized, and
Yeah.
um, really getting to the root of that and looking at that and dealing with it. Because for forever, like I said, I mentioned in the beginning, I was an addict for 13 years, and
Mhm.
all that has to do with like root stuff, and
Yeah.
that's
Right. Yeah.
probably where his issues came
Mm.
from. You know what I mean? I don't excuse what he did to me, but I
Yeah.
had to forgive him. I had and
Mm.
like see that you are a broken, hurt person that did something really terrible to me, and I have to like pray for you or today, because that's the only way I'm going to feel better. I can't sit there and
Mm.
hate you for what you did. It's like you're just a really broken, hurt person. And I don't know what happened in your life that made you that way, but there's something that happened to you, and that's really sad, because I think that has to do with a lot of people, and why a lot of people turn to different things to try to fill voids or
Mhm.
push stuff down or not
Mhm.
deal with it, because it's difficult. We're all traumatized throughout
Yeah.
our lives, and
Right.
people just don't really see it as that, or don't want to use that term because it's a heavy term.
Yeah.
But we deal with a lot of things, and we don't really look at them and say, wow, that really affected me, and it changed who I was. So going through that kind of made this process a little bit easier, but it's a daily struggle, and I'm
Mhm.
still working on it today. You know what I mean? I'm
Yeah.
still figuring out who I am and what I'm doing, and I don't do things perfectly, um and some days are really good and some days are bad, but
Mhm.
at least I'm showing up today and like giving it my best shot. So
Yeah. I mean, it's just very, very interesting and I mean, fascinating to listen to you talk. I mean, not everyone goes through, well, first of all, not everyone goes through an experience like that, period. But
mhm,
not everyone who does go through an experience like that comes out the other side with sort of and it's such a clear sort of, I mean, the fact that you feel forgiveness towards him in the first place is of interest to me, because I think if someone did that to me, I would only have pure hatred towards them. That being said, I've never fucking experienced that. So what do I even know about it? What you're saying is extremely powerful. The fact that everyone is a person with a past, and
mhm,
while obviously you don't for really condone or give him a pass for what he did, but like you still have an understanding that people come from traumatic, the bad things people do are caused
yeah,
by things that formed them along the way.
yeah,
Every once in a while, there's just a complete fucking psychopath that is
mhm,
born to do terrible things, but that's
mhm,
much less common than the thing
yeah,
you're describing. Um, I am really curious about that. You described a bit. We talked about a little bit that period of the 2 weeks between sort of the first act of violence towards you and then the ultimate act of violence towards you. And you painted a picture that sounded extremely uh, interesting to me, where he's constantly apologizing and crying and telling you he's never going to do it again. And then, of course, he not only does it again, but almost does it to its maximum
mhm,
amount.
mhm,
I'm assuming there's a lot of mania, shame, paranoia, so many things swirling in his mind that he doesn't even understand that led to him doing what he did. But from your point of view, you seeing in retrospect, seeing what he did, causing you to have two black eyes, beating you severely, and then leading up to him almost killing you. What do you think happened in that 2 weeks that sort of made him snap? Because if he's not at all violent, obviously there are bad signs, but then he's violent to you once, and 2 weeks later he almost kills you. That is such an extreme scenario. What did you see? What do you think happened there? Like,
I think it was me, pulling back from him and him really realizing he had put all his eggs in one basket, and he, without me or that saying like, if I can't have you, no one's gonna have you. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
Because it was like I was starting to really go with my family more. I was pulling back more from him. And I think he was seeing those signs and seeing that, like, I'm in this other state with this other woman. Like
right.
We have these plans together. I had all his money, because come to find out, like, I was always wondering, why does he give me all his money? Why is it all going in my bank account? Why is he not getting a job? Because he was a wanted felon.
Yeah, of course. Right. Yeah.
That's why. So
wow.
he was like, trying to, we wear masks all the time. Everybody does. We're trying to impress or like, play the part of whatever we are. So I think it was really just starting to get really real that he was going to lose everything. The place to stay, me, and all his, not like I was going to take his money or anything, but I think it was just, he had put me on this pedestal and he saw it all about to just crumble.
Yeah.
And like, it's like that Snap show. I think there's just people that in that moment that he had kind of overdone it. And when I looked into the mirror and I saw, my face, and he was trying to get us to go to a hotel. And I was like, we're not going. Like, we can't hide this. That's what I said to him. Like, do you see my face? Like, there's no way that I can hide this from the world. Like, and I don't know how long this is going to take to heal, but we kind of did a number, you know what I mean? And the black eyes, I can go to the store and get some makeup. And we even joked about that with my black eyes, which is so twisted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you made them look really nice. Like, they look great today. It's like just the weird dichotomy of like a abusive relationship and how you almost feel like close to that person. Like, it was just really weird to sit and like break that apart after that all happened. But I think that's really what it was just he snapped. And when I said, like, I'm not going to that hotel, I can't hide this. Like, we can't hide this one. This is overboard. That's when he snapped and was like, all right, well, you're not going to hide it and you're going to tell on me. Well, then I'm just going to finish the job.
Oh my God. That is so fucking scary. That is like, holy shit. Wow. I mean, and so what, the fact that your mom happened to be, was it your mom or your sister?
Yeah, it was my sister was one that called, because my sister works for like my family company, and we are in 2 different states. So she was in another state.
Got it.
So she wasn't around. So she called my mother because she knew my mom was going to be with me that day, or was at least around. So as soon as she called my mom, and my mom, like, the fact that she was just 15 seconds away from my house is just like, and that's another reason why
with cops. Yeah.
Like, that's another reason why I have to forgive people. Cause like, there was grace shown to me that day. I don't know or understand why. And I don't deserve it. You know what I mean? As a human, and like all the things that I've done, I don't deserve that. But for whatever reason, like, I was shown that, and I have been shown that many times in my life. And so that was a really big wake up call too. Like, hey, you need to get your shit together. Like, you have a purpose in this life, and you kind of just been wasting away and doing nothing with it. And so that's like big on why I show a lot of people grace today. Like, it was shown to me, I need to show it to other people. And I think like our world would be a lot better place if we could all do that with one another. Like, we're all we all need that. We're like in such need for like connection and love and acceptance. And we're just screaming out for it. And I feel like lately everybody's so mean and judgmental and angry. And if we could just show grace to one another and understand that we are all collectively suffering and we've all been through some really hard shit and life's hard and people are mean and things go wrong all the time. Like if we could just understand that and be able to like show love to one another, I feel like the world would be a lot better place and we wouldn't have people trying to murder people.
I mean,
so often.
Very well put. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I believe it means more coming.
Because I know you said that last week on Lifeline. You said that was your resolution.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. I mean, we go through life and people are fucking terrible to us and life is hard, but what are we going to do? I mean, it's almost a binary choice. We can either reflect that back at the world or we can give the world something else that we think might do a little bit better, not only for the world, but also for us. It's not a totally selfless thing. It's not like we're preaching like go out in the world and give and never worry about yourself. It's just, it's for yourself. You're giving something good to the world for yourself. It's not totally a selfless act.
Because when you feel good about you, it's like nobody that feels good about themselves is going around like talking crap. Like typically that's like you projecting your shit onto somebody else.
Totally,
and it's like, so learn how to deal with that and why you feel like that. It's like, why is that person irking me? There's something going on within me that makes me feel like I need to not like you. It's like, if we go more inward instead of just outward, that's been my biggest lesson through all this is like going in, dealing with all that stuff that's stuck down and I pushed down and I didn't want to look at. It's like, that's the nugget that I got. It was like, yo, to get to see the light, like you got to go into the darkness and like into that abyss. And like, once you do that and you clear all that out and you figure that out, like, ooh, the light in there is beautiful. But you just have to get through that. And it's been the hardest thing that I've ever had to do was like sitting with myself and looking at myself and being honest and like, that I had these skeletons and these things that like I'd pushed down and not wanted to deal with for so long, 33 years of just junk, and hurt and pain. But on the other side of that is like a beautiful full life.
Yeah. And how long ago did this all happen?
So 2001. So it's been like 3 years.
2021?
Yeah, 2021.
Okay, got it.
Sorry.
Okay, wow. No, I was like, that's fucking 23 years. You must have been young. Yeah. Wow. So this was only 3 years ago. Okay, and then when did he? Because I know this kind of shit takes a long time. When was he sent to jail for 30 years?
Oh, he was in jail from the time that he did it, and then he got sentenced December of 22.
Okay, so.
It wasn't that long,
Just over a year then. He's been since his sentence. Yeah, okay, wow.
Yeah.
Well, thankfully, you never have to worry about this guy ever again. I mean, that is a truly, genuinely harrowing story, but you telling it and where you are now, the spin on it is actually a positive, and that's pretty beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. So, I mean, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your story. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, totally. That's it. I just want to say thanks for sharing your story. It's beautiful. You're a beautiful person, and I appreciate it.
You're a beautiful person. I appreciate you.